Jimin too big for hybe? Bang Si Hyuk allegedly uncomfortable with his rise. Even Jungkook shocked the balance of power in K-pop may have already shifted silently, irreversibly. And it all begins with a name that refuses to be contained, Park Jimin. The question now gripping fans and industry insiders alike is simple yet seismic. Has Jimin become too big for the very company that built him? Sources inside hybe whisper of growing tension, quiet power struggles, and a brand too strong for its own parent. Is Bang Si Hyuk, the mastermind behind BTS, no longer in control of his brightest star? This is not a story of scandal. It's a story of scale. Unpredictable, exponential, and unstoppable scale. Jimin, originally introduced to the world as a part of a synchronized team, has now become something dangerously independent, a global force, a symbol, a movement. hybe Corporation, once a fortress of coordinated vision and group branding, now appears to be grappling with a dilemma it never anticipated. Not failure, but too much success in a single direction. And behind closed doors, the emotions allegedly range from admiration to unease, even jealousy. Multiple sources close to the company describe an internal state of disruption. There is no corporate manual for what to do when a solo artist eclipses the very system that was designed to elevate him. There are whispers of friction. Allegedly, Bang Si Hyuk, once Jimin's fiercest advocate, is now struggling to control a narrative that has grown larger than his influence. One internal strategist reportedly called it the Jimin anomaly, a force that defies algorithmic marketing, traditional PR strategy, and even internal planning calendars. Is it possible that Jimin's light has become too bright for the room that nurtured it? His solo rise has not only been meteoric, it's been emotionally charged and culturally significant. From his historic brand ambassadorship with Dior, which saw fashion houses scrambling to capitalize on his magnetism, to the unprecedented global response to his solo debut album Face, Jimin has surpassed every milestone expected of a K-pop soloist. He did this not just with commercial performance, but with a kind of human sincerity that algorithms can't replicate. And perhaps that sincerity is exactly the problem. Internally, some marketing teams allegedly warned that his individual brand might outshine BTS itself, creating an imbalance that no group strategy could fix. When Like Crazy became the highest charting Korean solo song in Billboard Hot 100 history, fans noticed a peculiar pattern: minimal playlisting, muted media coverage, and underwhelming music video promotions from hybe. While the achievement dominated international headlines, the company's main channels were eerily quiet. Coincidence? Many don't think so. Even within the walls of hybe, there were said to be concerns that Jimin's rise would set a precedent too difficult to follow. One insider noted that early discussions around his Dior deal were met with hesitation. There was fear, the source claimed. Fear that Jimin would become bigger than the framework designed for him. And then he did. What makes Jimin's case so disruptive isn't just the numbers, it's the emotional resonance. His performances bleed vulnerability. His interviews are unscripted. His social media presence isn't curated by a team of handlers, but comes directly from his phone, his thoughts, his tears, his truths. There's no filter, no buffer. And that makes him dangerous to a machine built on narrative control. That control, many believe, is slipping. Even Jungkook, according to those close to the situation, was reportedly stunned by the internal tension surrounding Jimin's solo success. While members have always publicly supported one another, a source familiar with the group's dynamic noted that the shift in power has created invisible fractures, not necessarily among the members themselves, but in the apparatus that supports them. This is not a rivalry. This is a breakdown of control. The irony is brutal. Bang Si Hyuk, the very architect of BTS, is now allegedly unsettled by one of his most successful creations. In an old interview, he admitted nearly excluding Jimin during early trainee evaluations. Now, the artist he once questioned is redefining what it means to be an idol, and doing it without waiting for permission. Fans, collectively known as ARMY, have noticed this shift too. Their interpretations are sharp, emotional, and often unrelenting. Social media buzzes not only with pride but with suspicion. Why, they ask, has HYB failed to capitalize on the momentum Jimin creates organically? Why are his victories not celebrated with the same enthusiasm as other projects? A widely circulated theory posits that HYB is deliberately softening the spotlight on Jimin, not to sabotage, but to preserve balance, to prevent the system from appearing obsolete. But every spontaneous fan-led streaming party that trends worldwide without a dime of label promotion is a quiet rebellion. It's a signal. Jimin doesn't need the machine anymore. He is the machine, and that terrifies people in power. If the company no longer shapes the star but merely chases his momentum, then the question becomes, who is really in charge? Si Hyuk, who once controlled every narrative thread of BTS, may now find himself on the outside of Jimin's orbit. And that's not just unprecedented, it's existential. Industry professionals have commented, off-record, on the growing sense of unpredictability. With Jimin, we can't plan in advance. One former HYB marketing director is rumored to have said, "He breaks out of every template. He speaks with his heart, not from a script." That breaks the entire model. Another echoed, "There's reverence in the room when his name comes up. But there's also fear, because he's not controllable anymore." This shift is not limited to branding or music charts. It cuts to the core of HYB's structure, which thrives on group-centric identities. Jimin's solo momentum threatens to redefine that foundation. Every time the company fails to match his reach with resources, it sends an uncomfortable message. Either they don't know what to do with him, or they're choosing not to do anything at all. Neither option bodes well. Some fans have already begun asking the unthinkable. Would Jimin ever leave HYB? Legally, the waters are murky. Emotionally, it's even more complex. But the fact that such a question can even be asked seriously is a testament to how drastically the dynamic has shifted. If the company needs him more than he needs them, then he holds the power. Quietly. Completely. And the silence from HYB, strategic or uncertain, only makes that power more visible. Every photo of Jimin that trends globally within minutes. Every fan project that breaks records without backing. Every heartfelt post he shares that eclipses polished corporate campaigns. These are not anomalies. They are symptoms of something far deeper, a changing of the guard, and no longer just an idol. No longer just a member. Jimin is now an emotional cornerstone of millions of lives. His vulnerability is his weapon. His authenticity is his rebellion. And his refusal to be anything but himself may be the boldest threat HYB has ever faced. Not because it undermines them, but because it makes them irrelevant. The company that once told his story must now compete with him to tell it. Si Hyuk's legacy is already cemented in global music history. But is it possible that in constructing BTS, he inadvertently created a star whose narrative can no longer be managed? Fans believe the answer is yes. And now they watch closely, not for scandal but for silence. Strategic silence. Absences louder than words. What happens when a man becomes more than the machine that made him? What happens when one voice becomes bigger than the chorus? The industry is watching. The fans are already reacting. And perhaps, deep inside HYB's towering glass headquarters, behind locked meeting rooms and sleepless strategic planning sessions, someone is wondering, how do you contain the sun once it has already risen? There is no going back. Not for Jimin, not for Si Hyuk, and certainly not for HYB, because the question now is no longer whether Jimin can survive without HYB. It's whether HYB can survive without Jimin. What if everything we think we know is a carefully constructed illusion? What if the narrative of tension between Jimin and HYB is not a reality unfolding in silence, but a manufactured drama engineered to provoke emotional reaction and manipulate public perception? As this conversation intensifies across digital platforms, From Twitter threads to viral TikTok analyses and long-form YouTube commentary, the urgent question arises: are we witnessing a genuine internal crisis within HYB, or are we consuming a spectacle created to captivate the public's perception of Park Jimin as a rising force too powerful for HYB to control has been shaped by a combination of observed promotional inconsistencies, speculative insider reports, and fan interpretations. But where do we draw the line between documented fact and social media-driven narrative? The sources cited, while compelling, originate from platforms with varying degrees of credibility. Comments from unnamed former employees, claims of marketing hesitancy, and references to anonymous insiders form a narrative scaffolding built more on sentiment than on verifiable evidence. Is it possible that these claims are rooted in truth, yet distorted by emotional amplification? Or are they entirely unfounded, fabricated myths designed to fuel the flames of fandom discourse? One must ask, who benefits from this story being believed? Does Jimin benefit from being seen as an underdog rising against corporate restraint? Does HYB benefit from the controversy, which keeps its artists perennially trending in the media spotlight? Or is it the fans' army themselves, who find meaning, identity, and collective purpose in defending or debating this perceived injustice? To what extent is this conversation driven by genuine concern, and how much of it is shaped by algorithms prioritizing outrage, virality, and click-through rates? Such questions cannot be ignored, particularly in an era where truth is not what is, but what trends. Emotional virality often outpaces rational analysis. A candid photo of Jimin goes viral in minutes. A vague tweet suggesting friction within HYB explodes into a theory accepted as fact. But are these reactions truly grounded in evidence, or are they part of a digital theater we unconsciously participate in? Let us confront the deeper question. Do we really know what is happening behind closed doors at HYB? Or are we simply reacting to shadows on the wall? Is the alleged discomfort of Bang Si Hyuk rooted in jealousy, strategic recalibration, or entirely fictionalized for dramatic effect? And when fans point to the apparent lack of promotional support for Like Crazy, or the underwhelming playlist placements compared to other HYB artists, are these objective patterns? Or are we selectively interpreting data through an emotional lens? In a world where fans often become analysts, promoters, and investigators, the boundary between truth and assumption grows increasingly thin. Are we becoming too invested in a narrative we helped construct? Moreover, is it ethical to presume hostility or control issues based on incomplete information? Are we, as a global audience, responsibly interpreting media signals? Or are we allowing desire for scandal and power shifts to cloud judgment? We must pause and reflect. Is the tension real, or is it a collective projection fueled by platform engagement metrics? We know this much. Park Jimin has transcended his original role as an idol. His artistic authenticity resonates deeply. His influence is undeniable. But the interpretation of that influence, whether it is being resisted, suppressed, or simply mismanaged, is far more complex. Consider this. If HYB is indeed threatened by Jimin's rise, why would they permit his continued dominance in fashion, global recognition, and unfiltered social media presence? Conversely, if HYB fully supports him, why do fans continually detect gaps in promotion, delays in recognition, and reduced visibility in official communications? Could both be true at once? Could there be internal conflict, not of malicious intent, but of misalignment, between old systems of control and the unpredictable rise of a new kind of star? Or could the entire debate be a distraction, a viral phenomenon rooted not in fact, but in our collective craving for a dramatic rupture in the K-pop status quo? Therefore, as responsible consumers of media, we must interrogate not only the information presented, but our own motivations in believing it. What are we choosing to see? What are we ignoring? Is this a documentation of a superstar outgrowing his creators? Or is it the latest chapter in a long tradition of fan-fictionalized celebrity drama? Is Bang Si Hyuk truly losing grip? Or are we being shown fragments designed to look like fractures? The most pressing responsibility now lies with the audience. You, the fans, the observers, the ones shaping the conversation through retweets, edits, hashtags, and streaming parties. You must ask yourself, do I have enough evidence to believe this narrative is real? Am I relying on emotional interpretation or factual verification? Could I be participating in the amplification of a hoax, even unintentionally? Who verified the so-called insiders? Do they exist beyond digital rumor? Would the truth, if it were duller than this drama, still be acceptable to me? It is critical to remember that many of the claims circulating originate from unverified digital whispers, TikTok monologues, speculative YouTube dissections, emotionally charged Twitter spaces. These are valid cultural expressions, but they are not conclusive evidence. At this juncture, skepticism is not cynicism. It is responsibility, and a time where image equals influence, and where stories can be weaponized for clicks, streams, and brand alignment. We must wield critical thought as our only protection against manipulation, intentional or otherwise. We do not deny the possibility of real conflict, but neither should we accept every headline, every fan theory, every emotionally persuasive post as truth. Verification requires discipline. Emotional narratives, no matter how compelling, must be tested. This article, like many before it, is part of a larger discourse. One informed by fragments, by impressions, by questions. It is neither confirmation nor denial. It is a call to awareness. So we ask you again, do you believe this is real? Or are we all watching a carefully staged illusion unfold? Do not let loyalty become blindness. Do not let passion silence reflection. Seek the truth, not the trend. And until the full picture reveals itself, let us approach every new development with the scrutiny it demands, because in the end, it may not be about whether Jimin is too big for hybe. It may be about whether we, as consumers of global culture, are ready to distinguish fact from fiction before it's too late.